right, this is going to work. All right. I know it seems strange to use the mic when there's so few of us here. We were just chatting, but this is for the benefit, a little lower, okay? This is also for the benefit of, mostly for the benefit of the recording, because our chatter out here isn't audible, but hopefully what comes in here is audible. Is the volume all right? Volume's good? Okay. So thank you for coming. Breaking down right at the start. My name's Eric Ferguson. I'm Gordon's brother. Thank you all for being here. You've probably gathered this is rather informal. It's open mic funeral, so everybody feel free to tell your Gordon stories. And it gets tougher when you're talking. I'll just warn you up front about that. It gets a lot tougher when you're talking. I'll start. We'll start at the beginning. Gordon and I were both kids. I was 6 or 7 or something like that. And I had just discovered baseball was a thing. And I guess being in New York, it was right after the Mets had won the World Series, so I'm a Mets fan. Gordon, as you know, yes, I gestured, for the recording, I gestured toward the Yankee hats. All right, so one day the Mets have a game on TV. I'm watching that. Dad has taken Gordon to the Yankees game. And they came back early from the Yankees game because it got rained out, but then it turned out they just left early. And it was just a long rain delay. It's still a game. And so Gordon, we only have the one TV. Gordon wants to see the Yankee game, and I want to see the Mets game. And he was really insistent on the Yankees game with the very valid point, I should have been there, but I'm 6 or 7. So basically, with that, a brotherly baseball rivalry is born. But this year, Gordon, I will root a bit for the Yankees. The last game Gordon went to, it was the St. Paul Saints game last season, and I know not all of you are sports fans, so I'll throw in a little more detail than the sports fans might need. CHS Field over in St. Paul is really good if you're driving a mobility impaired person, because you can pull up right in front of the stadium and drop them off right close to the gate. And then, so I dropped off Gordon. He had his walker, and I drove away to park, and it was a ways. I think I was parked like close to a mile away, so it took me a while to get there. It took me a while to walk back. I figured Gordon will be at the seat when I get there. So I get to our seats, and Gordon's not there. Okay, he's just using the men's, taking a while to get his food. I don't know. Okay, so I go get my food, get back. Gordon's still not there. And this is a while now, so now I'm concerned. So now I'm wondering, okay, is he just taking a while? Did he get hurt? Who do I talk to if there's a problem? Because now I'm getting worried. So basically, I look out on the ball field, and then I'm turning around. Where is he? I'm resorting to calling him. This is at a baseball game. You know how noisy they are. I figure he probably can't hear the phone. He didn't hear the phone. But I'm calling and wondering what could be going on. Well, as it turns out, a lot of people at the St. Paul Saints Field like to go around the concourse. You can just walk all the way around the ballpark. A lot of people do. Not usually people with a walker moving at the pace of a person on a walker. And yes, he did eventually show up, and I don't think he caught at all how completely frazzled I was at that point. He had no idea. Didn't feel need to tell me. So, yeah, he just went slowly going around. Oh, that's what people do there. It's a ball field. So, yeah, Gordon, I'm gonna miss you, and I'll root for the Yankees this year. And I'm gonna always try to remember. I'm gonna remember the better times, the ball game, and happier, healthier times. Not the last couple months that were hard. I'm glad I could be there with you at the end. And, okay, one more story. Okay, one more story comes to mind, and I don't know why, because it was hockey, like the only hockey game he ever went to. I don't know. I don't even remember. Was it after the Wild came? Was it all the way back when we had the Minnesota Moose a long time? I'm probably the only one in this room who remembers the Minnesota Moose. I think Gordon went with me to one of their games, and so we're sitting there watching the game, and this being a hockey game, one hockey player slammed into another hockey player, and the referee is going to call a penalty, and Gordon doesn't agree. So to the entertainment of the people who are sitting around, because he called it out loud enough, he shouts out to the ref, "He didn't mug him. He didn't take his money." And we get a lot of people turning around to see who that was. So with that, who else would like to say something? It probably feels like back when you were in class and it was speech day, but the teacher was going to just take volunteers and none of us want to go. Does it feel like that? All right. Jason, it's all yours.
Jason Morzenti, I've been a friend of Gordon's for a while. We taught at Heart of the Earth back in the late 90s. Is that better? Okay. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about Gordon is a good friend. We played that. He really loved music, too. A lot of people here played music with him. And we played the song Stuff That Works by Guy Clark. Stuff that works. Stuff that holds up. Kind of stuff you don't put on the wall. Stuff you feel. The stuff that's real. It's the kind of stuff you reach for when you fall. That's what Gordon was, you know. And he was always a fierce advocate for social justice. Eric mentioned how he'd say things that the rest of us were always thinking, but perhaps would not say. And one time we were at my house drinking homebrew in the backyard, and one particular party goer was excessively negative, dwelling on all of the negativity, and she went on for quite a while. And one time Gordon just looked up and he said, "Do you have any happy stories?" And everybody, same reaction, as you see. So he'd do stuff like that, you know. He'd say the things, and the rest of us just kind of talked about it. And, oh, yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but I sure. But that's what he did. And he was always positive right to the end, too. He focused on gratitude every day, and just the metaphysics of keeping positive things, focusing on what's best. He used to work in a mine and in Wyoming, and in the mine they used to say every day above ground is a good day. So I'm not going to say today's a good day, but I am going to say that the best speech is a short speech, and I hope you agree that it was good and short.
Hello, I'm David Vavrick, old friend of Gordon's. I met him a little over 30 years ago through Jim McGuire. I was just thinking the first distinct memory I have of Gordon was sitting in a basement bar in Dinkytown, and he was while the TV was on, playing this particular show, and he was just waxing poetic, I'm sure you find that hard to imagine, about this wonderful program and trying to talk us into, you should start watching it, it's great. It's a little something called X-Files. Which, anyway, that's my first memory. Several years went by, I ended up being in, I guess, the last iteration of Horizon Stagger with him. that was an experience. We did a mixture of Pogue stuff, Irish and Scottish folk stuff, and then original stuff written by Gordon. His background was not in music. His background was in literature. So he was really good at writing lyrics, really good. He really didn't even have the vocabulary to talk about what he wanted to do with a song. He kind of encouraged other people in the band to work these things out and go from there. And when one would come up with an idea, hey, let's try this in this part of the song. You know how Spinal Tap, their amplifiers went up to 11? Gordon's criticism only had 2 settings, 1 or 10. Either that's fabulous, and then we'd move on, or that sucks, try something else, and then we'd move on. The first once or twice he did that, my poor little feelings were hurt, but I learned rather quickly how practical that was. I don't know how many of you are musicians. I know you get this. It was a pretty amazing, short-lived part of my life. The last decent ensemble I've been in. We broke up in end of '97, 5-piece band. After a few months, he and the guitarist Brad Wright were still getting together and singing, and Brad playing guitar. And after a while, they decided they wanted to start doing stage work again, and I got a call asking if I'd want to play bass and fiddle. And I agreed. The last message I got from Brad was on the Friday of Memorial Weekend. I came home from work and found a note on the door looking forward to our rehearsal. We had agreed to have our first rehearsal. Looking forward to having this rehearsal this weekend, and Brad died that night. So a Rise and Stagger version 6 or whatever it was never happened. The last time I performed with Gordon was in '98 at Brad's funeral, not long after Memorial Day. So that's the last time we performed together, best performance we ever did. The 4 other members of the band sang a cappella Brad's favorite song that Gordon wrote, and it was amazing. I wanted to tell an anecdote, maybe 2, but certainly one. So it was mentioned that Gordon taught at, what was the name of was it Heart of the Earth Survival School in Dinkytown? And again, Gordon's background was in literature, and most of the students he was teaching were Native American. And there are things you have to do as an English teacher, and there are things you have to do when you're dealing with Native children and pupils. And sometimes it's a little hard to figure out how to process, how to make things approachable to them. I don't remember whether it was Gordon's about to start a unit on poetry. It might have been a unit on drama. I'm not sure. But he ponders how to make this approachable for the mostly Ojibwe clientele. And by Monday morning, he's feeling pretty good about it. The kids walk into class and they start out, and he says, "You guys are into rap, right? Hip-hop?" "Well, yeah." He says, "Why don't you do one for me?" He's like, "Really?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Like a real one?" "Yeah, go ahead. Don't worry about it." So a kid does a rap, another kid does another rap, and Gordon very positively, with his dial turned to 10, congratulates him on it, doing a good job, and then says, "That's great. Now let me introduce you to the iambic pentameter." That was Gordon's way of introducing them to William Shakespeare. I just thought that was brilliant, just brilliant. He was a hell of a charming fella when he had the charm on. That was also often set on 10. when he sang. There were times he sang powerfully. There were times he sang exuberantly. I've actually missed Gordon for quite a while. I've kept in touch with how he's doing through Eric, but I haven't seen him in quite a few years, but miss him nonetheless. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Helen Ferguson. All right, there we go. I hope everybody can hear me. My name is Helen Ferguson, Gordon's sister-in-law. Gordon was so amazing, and I'm going to try not to use appropriate curse words because he was really amazing, really amazing. He knew everything for a while there. When he was at Shalom, when I had time off from work, I'd always drive him to do his errands. And one of his most favorite things to do after we've got done with doing errands was go to Genko's Coffee House. He loved poetry. He loved different verses. He wrote down cards, and 3x5 note cards, of different verses, and he'd memorize them, and he'd say them, and we'd discuss politics and the state of things, and it's just so, he could hold a conversation, and when he smiled, it just, made everything better. You knew that things were going to be okay. It was so amazing. And one of the fun little things is that Gordon had this little collection of cannons. And he loved his cannons. And when he stayed with us, he had arranged his cannons on top of the dresser. And I, from my reenacting days, there was this little booth at this one place that we'd gone to that had little tiny 17th century soldiers. And I showed him these little pewter 17th century soldiers. So he had lined up the little 17th century soldiers in between the cannons, and they looked really amazing. So, and it was really cool. Gordon was amazing. And I just wanted to share.
Hi, I'm Kieran Daly. I worked with Gordon at Clean Water Action. I started working there when I was 19 years old, and in my early 20s, Gordon and I met, and my friend Matt Spillum and Gordon and I decided to start a band called Rise and Stagger. So that was the first time around for Rise and Stagger. And Gordon was the turf sorter. I think he liked doing that because it demanded very little of him. And he got to read and concentrate on his poetry, and that's what he cared about more than anything else. That's who he was. He was a poet. And we bonded on the poetry of Seamus Heaney and the songs of the Pogues. And we started this crazy spoken word country Irish punk rock thing that I love that it went on in all these different incarnations over the years. My experience of Gordon's singing and Gordon's approach to creative partnership was very similar. So it was always fiery but never boring. We all had strong opinions. I think it fell to Matt Spillum to make the peace between us more than once. Anyway, I told a story earlier. I went to an open mic on the East Coast when I was out there for work. And it was a scary, intimidating open mic. And I did one of mine, and it was reasonably well received. And then I decided to do one of Gordon's, and as I said earlier, the room got pretty quiet after that. And everybody realized that there had been a real poem recited. Anyway, it stuck with me, so I'd like to repeat it now. Alone. Alone in a room that smells like my room. Four cream walls and nails for empty clothes to hang from. Our body could spend a season in a room like this. And leave but once a day. Leave when the cold sun beckons. When the rays of the sun dance in low angles off the rattling chrome of enormous automobiles. Great trucks rumble by on anonymous missions of commerce and order. And twice a day, the train's lament punctuates my routine. What else in winter but work when I have only my ear and my fear of God?
Anyone else wants to speak? You don't have to. You don't want to.
You may not make it through. Hi, I'm Teresa, one of Gordon's younger sisters. And growing up, for the time that he was there, being a younger sister was not easy. He was very critical because he was a very critical thinker, and I was a very feeling individual. So many times we clashed. Mostly would end with me sobbing. But eventually we came to a spot where we met as we got older, and he left home and he went to college. One of the best first times of my life. Was when I went to see him in Oswego. It was the most most magical time of my life yet. At that point, I think I don't know, I must have been, I don't know. He was in college, so I don't even know. I was young. I'm 5 years younger. So it was like the dormitories were like buildings. You know, they were just all, I don't know how Oswego, I mean, I would have imagined that they were, large, tall buildings with rooms. These weren't. These were all side by side. More like a compound. That evening, every single dormitory had Springsteen music playing. And I mean every one of them. It was like I was at a Springsteen concert. And if you've ever been to a Bruce Springsteen concert, you know the magic of the room. He lifts you. He lifts your heart. He lifts your spirit. That's why so many people love going to his shows, not just because they're incredibly long. He was the bond that I had with my brother and my family at home. He was our heart, our Bible, I used to say, because there was how Oswego, I mean, I would have imagined that they were, large, tall buildings with rooms. These weren't. These were all side by side, more like a compound. That evening, every single dormitory had Springsteen music playing. And I mean every one of them. It was like I was at a Springsteen concert. And if you've ever been to a Bruce Springsteen concert, you know the magic of the room. He lifts you. He lifts your heart. He lifts your spirit. That's why so many people love going to his shows, not just because they're incredibly long. He was the bond that I had with my brother and my family at home. He was our heart, our Bible, I used to say, because there was a lot of strife growing up. But the boss was, he was a bond. So I was so lucky. I felt the magic that happened those few days or a week. I don't even recall. It was so long ago. It was amazing. I'll never forget it. And there was a permanent bond built then, even though we already had one physically. And at the end of the trip, I don't know if you all remember, anyone remembers he had that rust-colored El Camino? Anybody remember that? I think that was, I don't even remember, but anyway, he had it then. I don't know how long he had it. So he was driving me to, I believe, the airport, and the tolls were coming up, the toll booths. And he's not slowing down. He's not slowing down. And we get closer to it, and he's not slowing down. And he lifts up his hands and his feet, and he goes, "No brakes, no brakes." And there's a car in front of us. So, I mean, luckily it pulled out just as we got to the toll booth, and he just says to the guy, "No brakes, no brakes." I'm a kid. This was just hysterical to me. I mean, it was great. It was great. It really was. But there were so many moments. But that was that whole experience for me was wonderful. All of it. Over the years, he continued the criticism, but much less. He let me more into himself. All of him, and I appreciated that, and I got to take care of him medically. I got to give him advice on what to do and what not to do, although he didn't choose to take all of that advice. But he would always call me, especially on my birthday, but often occasions, and sing. And he was always singing to me. Always. There was always singing. And he would come home sometimes for Christmas and stay with us. And he would, my husband would always say, Buddy would come down the stairs, we called him Buddy, and he would be singing on the way down. He's like, "Your brother is always singing." And I'm like, "Yes, he is." My husband's a singer. So, but yeah, Gordon would always be singing. And that's how I'll always remember him. Gentle. You can't write like he wrote without being gentle in your heart, even though a lot of his writing was strong. Most of it was strong. So, again, in the later years, you hope you understand and are able to take people into your heart and understand them completely, and I did, and I loved him so, and I will miss him for the rest of my life. Thank you, everybody, for listening who's out there. We know you're with us, and we love you too. God bless.
Anyone else who wants to speak? Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say something so maybe I'll feel better. Well, Gordon was my boss about 15 years ago now. About 15, right? 10 or 15? Yeah. This is my boss about 10, 15 years ago, and I just showed up to an interview, and I told him how I'm passionate about social justice, and he gave me the job, and from there on, and I found grace with him. That's kind of what makes me soft today, is that I don't have that many friends, but wherever I find grace, I try to live with that. And with Jason, we've been friends. Jason works there too. So after I left that job, as Jason kept me in touch with Gordon, he would tell me about Gordon. He brought me to his house when he was sick too. I saw him at his house once, and then after that, I only saw him at Jason's house one time. We're in the back and just hanging out and drinking what Jason brewed at home. The two stories I want to talk about Jason were, about Gordon was, he would send us to the field to canvas, and our daily quota was $100. If you make $100 daily quota, you're good. If you don't make less than $100, it's still all right, but the next day you got to make it up, and the next day you got to make it up. There was one particular day I came back with $100. And $100. No, we're supposed to break more than that. That's not really that good.
You said the minimum was 100, right?
Yeah. Me and Jason, we go above that. So he looked at my clipboard and he said, "Was this the only house you knocked?" And it was, January, winter, so I probably knocked 5 houses, 5 to 6 maybe. But we average around 200 homes anyway. But he gave me that little laugh he does, that little smile he does. And he gave me that little smile, and he moves on like that. For any hardship or any problems you come through, he just gives you that little smile. He moves on. And another story was, I used to drive the team out to the field. And if you drive your car, they give you 55 cents. And we, the bottom workers, we were really frustrated with the bosses of the organization. And one day I showed up to Gordon and I said, "Gordon, I don't want to drive my car anymore." He was shocked. They pay you 55 cents an hour. Why couldn't you drive? I'm like, it's not worth it for my car. I don't want to drive. He still gave me that little smiley. And he moved out and he told the boss that Ace doesn't want to drive. And he ended up getting us a company car to drive us out there. So I found a lot of grace with Gordon. And I'm solving today, not so much only for Gordon, but just the tragedy in life. It's not so much that we lose our loved ones. I think it's just that, I read it somewhere too, that it's just that we all kind of pass away without figuring out life. So I'm probably having more for that. You guys as families and friends, I wish you all, God give you the strength to overcome this loss. And I wish you all the best. And my friend Gordon, I wish him he can rest in peace. That's all I got to say about it. Appreciate you guys.
Anyone else want to? All right.
Since I'm in the pictures. That's for soccer. Oh, my name is Kari Taring, and yeah, I guess I met Gordon when just after my kids were, when they were little. I can't believe Oscar's going to be 30, so that's a long time ago. Yeah. He got me a couple of gigs at Heart of the Earth. He said, "I want you to teach them about the origins of the days of the week. That's going to blow their minds." Because, of course, they're all named after Norse gods. And everyone was like, they were fascinated by that. And so that was, and it's something I still do today. I teach, teach and sing, and
my diaspora, which is more Norwegian, and but he was uplifting, always could figure out what you did the best and tries to kind of like push you in that direction. And so I will miss him, and I'm really grateful to be here and to have known him and to have known all of you who knew him. It's a rare and beautiful group that he gathered around himself. And I'll just leave with from the Havamal, the poetic Edda, that cattle die and kinsmen die, and you and I will surely die. But there's one thing that never dies, the stories we tell about those who have died. So may he always live brightly in our memories and in the stories we tell.
No problem. All right, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for sharing your stories. Terry, so did you want to get people together at Hilltop or offer, or did you want to say anything, or no? Not to Mike. Okay. All right. In that case, thank you, everybody. I don't know how to end one of these things. I guess that's why priest do benedictions. You got the obvious ending. I'll just say, on behalf of our family, even this, thank you so much for coming. I'll go tell them to turn off the mic.